Here is our Scratch challenge. You can see we have a list of 18 students and we also have a list of their marks. We need to put these lists in order so the students with the highest marks are at the top and in order going down to the lowest mark. This is the Scratch challenge. Here we use the selection sort algorithm. If you want an explanation, have a look at this website and video. When we look at the algorithm, we see we go through a list in each place and find the number that should be in this location. So in this example, finding the minimum, and then we're going to put it in the left hand side going through the different positions of the list until we got an ordered list. So we're going to start off creating our loop to go through our list, and what we want to do, we want to find the highest number because we're going to move the highest number to the start. So we start off looking for the maximum, which we're going to set to the first value, and we're going to see if any other values are higher than this. So we're going to loop, do a repeat loop for the length of the list. Well, actually it's going to be the length of the list minus 1. We can use the green block and use length of list minus 1 for our condition in our repeat loop. And then we're going to go through and see if we have any numbers that are higher. We need to keep a note of the position that we're looking at, because when we do find a maximum number, we want to know where it is. So where is the position of that? So as we go through the list, we're going to look through the different values and we're going to keep a note of the position. Now, if the value is higher than the maximum we have already, then we want to change that maximum value. So we create an if statement and we check to see if a value is higher than the maximum that we have already. Now if it is, we're now going to set the maximum to that new number, and also we need to think about the position where it is. So we can create a new variable called max position, and this will keep a record of where this number is, because if it's the highest number we're going to have to move it to the top position. So we set maximum and the maximum position, which starts off at index 1, but it will change if we find a higher number. So we set maximum position to the new position if we find a higher number. Okay, so there's our if statement, our if block. So we can put that inside our loop. Now remember, can you remember how we changed values? We created a temporary variable. So what we need to do, we need to set the temporary variable to the value in the top place that we are going to put our maximum value. So that's going to start off as the item 1 of marks, and then we need to change the item 1 of marks to be the maximum value. So we replace item 1 of marks with the item inside the maximum position, so the position in the list where we found the highest number. So that now means the highest number goes into position 1. And don't forget to set the maximum position place, the value that's inside the maximum position place, to the temporary variable. So now we've swapped the two numbers. Now if that works, we can duplicate our blocks, and now we can do the same thing except with our student list. So we can go through, we don't really want to use the same variable, so instead of using temp we can use my variable, and then we can change the list from marks to students, so we're swapping the student in the position max position with the student who's in the position of number 1 in the index, number 1 in the list with the index equals 1, if that makes sense. So, okay, so we swap the marks and we swap the students with the highest value into the first place. So we can test that and hopefully that will work. So let's run it and see, do we get the highest score into the first place? Don't forget to change the position number as we're going through the loop. And now, yes, we can test it and the highest value does go to the first place. Okay, so that works with one number, the highest number, max, going to the first place. Now we want to do that throughout the list. So we need to move the position that we're swapping from position 1 to position 2, 3, etc. all down the list. So we got a swap position starting at 1 and then we'll increase that as we go down the list. So we then swap the highest number into place 2, place 3, etc. Okay, so now we are going to create the loop. We do the repeat loop. We can put our blocks of code into this loop. And now we have to make sure instead of having 1, we want the swap position in our code blocks. So we can look at our variable swap position, and instead of having item 1, we can have swap position. So let's go through our blocks, and when we have position 1, item 1 in the list, we actually want item swap position. So instead of going to 1, it's going to go to 2, then 3, then 4, etc. down our list. So put in swap position. Once we've done that, let's carry on the final one. Okay, so now we have hopefully our code. Don't forget, we want to change the swap position by 1 after our loop. So let's go down the bottom and add that. So now we can start our code with the green flag, and let's test our program. Don't forget to set the position to swap position +1 rather than 2, and the maximum position to the swap position. So instead of starting at 1, it's going to move the same as in our loop. So now we've correctly put our new variables in the right place in our blocks. Hopefully we can check our code to see if it works. So we're going to put in our test data. So we remove the data that we have before, and we're going to import our data for students and for the marks. Again, we seem to have this extra value at the end, so we have these length of list as 19, so we can delete the 19th element of marks and students. So let's just remove that. We can use a block to do that for both lists. So now we have our test data. Let's see if we can run our program and see if it works. Okay, so here we have our lists. We look through our list, marks, look for our list of students. This is before we test our program. Let's click the green flag, and you can see we now have the marks in order, highest to lowest, and the students have moved with their marks. Why not try the bubble sort and the insertion sort if you haven't already?